Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about stories relating to China that's been happening over today and the last few days. It's been quite a busy weekend by the looks of it. So without further ado, let's carry on. So with my first story, you can see that the British government and the British papers are already blaming the Chinese for potential power cuts. And you can see here, experts fear Beijing could destroy the national grid because of the rollout. There's a threat to power supplies to Britain if it's used as a Trojan horse. And as everyone knows in UK, there's already been warnings being sent out that there could be a lot of power cuts and power outages happening all over UK in the next few months. And looks like they're already blaming the Chinese for it. And this is not just on the Daily Mail, by the way. I just had to Google this, and this is basically coming out on every single British paper. So this tells me this is some sort of coordinated event. When you see the same story being printed in all of the papers and pretty much the same words and things like that, you know that this is some sort of coordinated effort coming out from the government, and they are sending this leak out to all of the papers saying spread this story out. And this is to basically train the public. So whenever there's power cuts are happening all over UK, they want the public to know that it's not their fault. Basically, you need to blame the Chinese or you need to blame Putin. Either of them is fine. As long as you don't blame the government, I guess it's okay. So they're already sending this story out, and I just find it absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. So the major story coming out of China is President Xi is going to be president for another 5 years. So he's mentioned all of his priorities in the next 5 years, what he's going to be focusing on, and things like that. And also, I just want to say, all of these stories about there's going to be a coup and someone's going to replace him coming out of the Western papers a few weeks ago, you can tell it's all been BS. And the fact that he's a leader for another 5 years, it shows that all of these sources, they just don't know what they're talking about. So he's mentioned a couple of things actually in his speech. And one of the main things he's mentioned is, so President Xi mentioned a few things in his Congress, and I'm not going to go through that now because that requires a separate video, but I'm going to focus on a few things. The first thing I'm going to be focusing on is what he said about Taiwan. He spent a considerable amount of time to say that how important it is to reunify the Chinese mainland with the Taiwanese island of Taiwan. And he said he wants to do it in a peaceful manner. So his focus is to do it peacefully. However, he has also asked his military to build up the military. President Xi has said that he wants to build up the military and also to accelerate all of the military build-up around the Taiwanese Strait. So he'll want more ships, more submarines, more airplanes. And this is basically to protect themselves. And they obviously want to do this peacefully, but if it doesn't happen peacefully, for example, if the United States decide to jump in and get involved and put their noses in and start a conflict, then China needs to be ready. Basically, they need to look at all available options, and also having a very strong military is quite a major deterrence as well. So a lot of Western countries will be deterred from joining in and getting involved in this conflict. So this is why President Xi has said that one of his major things to get done over the next 5 years is to reunify the island with the mainland. And I think it's going to be done within the next 5 years. I think it's going to be done between 2024 and 2027. The reason I say this is because there's a centenary of the PLA happening in 2027. So they'll want to celebrate that centenary with the Taiwanese island reunified with the mainland. So they'll want to do it way before 2027. But I think it's going to happen after 2024. The reason I say 2024 to 2027 is because there are general elections happening in Taiwan in 2024. And if the same party gets elected, which is the DPP party, and these are Taiwanese separatists who want, Taiwan to be a separate country, as opposed to a province of China. And rather than the Kuomintang, then that's going to be a major problem for China. And also in 2024, the Republicans going to be back in power. So whether it's going to be Trump or another Republican, or it could be Mike Pompeo, could be that Florida guy, DeSantis. Whoever comes into power, they're going to be very much anti-Chinese hawks. So they're going to be stirring up trouble. I'm pretty sure of it. So 2024 is going to be a very a tough year for China. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, and things can either escalate or things can de-escalate. So whichever way things go, really. So I think between 2024 and 2027, I think there could be moves for with the Chinese government to kind of push this peaceful reunification. And however, the United States will try everything they can for this not to happen, because it's in American interest for Taiwan not to join China for many reasons, really. Number one is security reasons. Once, if Taiwan joins with the mainland again, you have this island. It's going to be a huge unsinkable aircraft carrier. It gives a reach to China into the Pacific Sea, because right now China is constrained, it's constrained to what by the first island chain, and it's completely surrounded. So you got Japan, Taiwan, and Philippines, and other places in the South China Sea surrounding China. Then you got the second island chain as well. So the United States will want to keep China's reach beyond the first island chain. They would not want China to go beyond that. However, if Taiwan managed to reunify with China, China's reach can go way into the Pacific Sea. They will have an unsinkable aircraft carrier when it comes to Taiwan, and they can use that as a launch pad to go further out into the Pacific. And the United States will not want that, because they see that as a huge security risk. So the other reason the United States do not want Taiwan to fall into Chinese hands is because of TSMC. As you know, TSMC is making 5 nanometers chips, and they're coming out with 3 nanometers mass production as well, and eventually they'll go into 2 nanometers, 1 nanometers. So they are the world's leading fab, and they do not want that kind of technology moving into the Chinese hands. Because recently, last few days, Biden has signed a bill. They call it the Bill of Death, which is going to completely strangle China's hold on getting advanced chips. And you need a special license to sell chips to China now, and also special license to sell advanced chip making equipment to China. And also, United States is asking all American companies using American technology in China to move out of China and to bring them back to United States. So there's a major thing happening, which I'm going to go into a bit more further on down the lines. I'll discuss a bit more. So let's carry on with this military. I've mentioned that, you know, something could happen between 2024 and 2027. Obviously, China will want that to be peaceful, but other powers may not want that to be peaceful. They might want to use Taiwan as a launch pad to fight against the Chinese mainland, the same way they're using Ukraine. So obviously, there's a big difference there. It's very easy to supply weapons to Ukraine via the borders and coming through Poland, for example. But Taiwan itself is an island, and it's not going to be very easy to resupply Taiwan or to protect Taiwan, because Taiwan is so close to the Chinese shores. Any ships coming to the aid of Taiwan is probably going to be blown out of the water with Chinese hypersonic weapons. So I don't think the Western world will want to get involved in a war with China over Taiwan. but I could be wrong. I mean, look what's happening in Ukraine. So it really does depend on the leaders and see what happens. But as a summary, President Xi has already clarified that getting Taiwan back into the mainland and getting them reunited again is his top priority. And he also mentioned previously that the issue of Taiwan, he does not want to put that onto another leader. And because of his age, I think maybe the next 5 years would be his last stint as leader. Because of his age, I think he might hand it over to somebody else after that. And he does not want to hand over the issue of Taiwan to another leader. I believe he'll want to get that resolved before he goes. He wants some sort of legacy. He wants to be the leader who reunified Taiwan with the mainland, and obviously he wants to do it peacefully. But the fact that he has asked for military to be accelerated, military build-up to be accelerated, he's going to be putting more budget to the military as well. It shows that there is definitely they're planning for something major between 2024 and 2027. I mean, why else would you accelerate your military and say these things in Congress? So anyway, watch this space, guys. There could be a lot happening over the next few years. So I've mentioned the chip battle that's going on with the United States. So President Xi has also mentioned that he vows to have victory in this tech battle after the United States puts all of these curbs in the chip industry. So he's going to be putting more money into homegrown talent, homegrown institutions, businesses. I think they've already put in around 500 billion over the past few years, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be putting much, much more to build up their own tech sector and the chip sector. Because what they need to do is be self-reliant, and as you can see, they cannot rely not only on United States, but they cannot rely on United States allies to supply them chips, and that includes Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and they have all pretty much allied with the United States. They call them the Chip Four. So China will want to get self-reliant. They do not want to rely on any of these four chip-making countries and chip-making companies. So they're going to try and fast-track that. As I said in previous videos, I believe China has made great inroads in their chip making ability. The fact that they have now built 7 nanometers chips with DUV technology has really scared the United States. And this is why the United States has put all of these curbs on China, because the previous curbs have not really held China back that much, and they have been um, very, very good in building up their own tech sector and own chip sector. But the current release of 7 nanometers chips by SMIC has really spooked the United States, and this is why they're putting a lot more curbs. So I just want to also mention that because of these curbs, a lot of chip making companies have started to lose their shares and values. And you can see here TSMC shares have fallen 8.3%. But also United States shares like Nvidia, AMD, their shares have also fallen down as well, because these companies are not allowed to sell their most advanced chips to China anymore. And it beggars belief, because China is the world's largest market for chips. I mean, they are the factory of the world, and most products that they assemble in China and send it out to the rest of the world, they need chips. They need advanced chips. And if you're not going to sell your most advanced chips to China, then you as a company, you're losing a huge market. And what is the point of researching these advanced chips, spending so much money in research and development? And once you make the chip and make it amazing using the latest technology, you're found out by the government. The government tells you, "Oh, hang on, you can't sell that chip to China, your biggest market." I mean, come on. Then what is the point of researching these high-end chips if you're not going to be able to sell it? It's crazy. It's like me um, it's like me doing a degree in medicine for 10 years and then ending up working in a supermarket. What is the point of doing the degree if I'm not going to use it? It's absolutely ridiculous. So all of these companies who like TSMC and also many US companies are losing their um, share value, and also they're going to be losing jobs as well, because one of the rules of this chip bill is basically, if you're a chip making company and you have factories in China, you need to basically sell up. And there's stories about all of these companies now selling up, and a lot of American employees are now moving back to United States because of this chip bill, and it's causing a lot of issues. I mean, I can say that Chinese chip companies have also losing value as well. So it's not like one country's gaining and another's not. I mean, they're both losing. They are both losing. There's going to be American job cuts. And they're already, Nvidia, AMD have already announced job cuts. Intel has announced job cuts as well. And this is not just going to affect China. This is going to affect the United States as well. And if they cannot sell their most advanced chips to China, where else they're going to sell it to? It's absolutely ridiculous. And they are not only affecting Chinese companies, they're affecting US companies. And this means US companies will have less money and revenue. They're going to have to cut jobs. They're going to have to cut research and development. So it's one of those things, really. I mean, it's not really a win-win situation here. It's more of like a lose-lose situation. I mean, what is the point, especially during this time of economic crisis that's going on around the world? Is it really clever to do something like this? I don't think so. And all of this is going to do is just going to, ignite the Chinese to work harder and to be more self-reliant. And they're just going to be fast tracking all of this research and development. They're going to put more money into their own development, and you will see. I mean, even though the fact that they've come up with 7 nanometers chips, which United States said like a year ago that China would never be able to do, now have managed to get the entire life cycle to build 7 nanometers chips without US technology. And now they are really freaking out and doing these ridiculous bills now. And now is not the time in these tough economic times to do stuff like that. So we'll see how this bill, what happens with this bill, how it reacts, how the Chinese react, how American companies react to this. I think only time will tell. So you can see in this article as well, other companies like Applied Materials expects 550 million hit from Washington's ban on equipment sales. So this is just one of the companies, and many companies are going to be getting a huge hit from this. So Bloomberg has also reported this, and I want to go through this article, and I want to mention a specific company called ASML. And you can see ASML Holdings, most advanced maker of chip making equipment, their their shares have also fallen 3%. So one thing this is going to do is this is going to accelerate companies around the world to stop using US technology, because all of these companies using US technology, they are basically slaves. They are slaves of the US government. The US government can easily turn around to these companies like ASML, like Intel, like AMD, like Nvidia, like TSMC. They can easily turn around and say, "Look, you are using our technology. We are telling you not to sell to China, or else we sanction you and we basically won't allow your company to use our technology." And this is what they're doing. And what this is going to do is basically companies around the world, they are going to do their own research and they're going to find ways to get around using US technology, because what's happening. If you use US technology, you're basically a slave to whatever the government tells you to do. But if you stop using US technology, the US government cannot tell you, you're a sovereign country, you're a sovereign company, they cannot tell you who you can or cannot sell to. So countries like Japan have already started building new EUV machines, DUV machines. I mean, these machines are called NIL, and NIL machines are going to be able to make 5 nanometers chips without using EUV technology, without using US technology, and it's going to be much cheaper to make as well. You need less resources as well, less water, less energy. So it's much more cost-effective way to do it. And this is why countries around the world will find their own technologies, which is not US technology, and they'll basically be able to sell to whoever they want. And companies like ASML, I'm pretty sure they are now um, looking at ways to, you know, make these EUV machines without using US technology. They'll probably come up with their own kind of technology, or maybe borrow it from another country where they can't dictate to ASML who to sell, who they can't sell. So ASML has not been very happy because they look like they have been hit the most. The US has told ASML not to sell EUV machines to China, but now US is telling ASML not to sell DUV machines to China. And DUV machines are old technology machines. And now, because China has made 7 nanometers chips using the DUV machines, they do not want ASML to sell DUV machines to China. So there's a lot of politics goes on with these US stocks and stuff. If you are into stocks, buying and selling, you can actually look at all of these geopolitics events and you can actually work out how these stocks are going to be doing short term and long term. And as you can see, all of these chip making stocks and chip producing companies have lost a lot of value over since this bill, and a lot of people had predicted that. But yeah, anyway, this is not a stock making this is not a stock trading channel. This is a geopolitics channel. So let's move on. So there is a G20 meeting happening over the next few weeks, and guess what? Putin has been invited, and he will be attending. So the Western leaders are not going to be very happy about that. So Biden wants to take this opportunity to meet President Xi during this G20 meeting. However, the Chinese government officials are now backtracking or backpedaling on a long-awaited plan to have a face-to-face meeting between the two. And you can see here, Beijing won't engage with US officials trying to draft an agenda for the meeting. According to a person familiar with the planning, a move that could prevent it to happen at all. So I can tell you honestly that, looking at the Chinese papers as well, the Chinese are not very happy with the United States, and they do not want to meet them face to face at all. And especially during all of these, bills that President Biden has put in place. But you may have also remember that a few weeks ago, President Biden has said he's gonna, you know, basically start a war with China over Taiwan. Because somebody asked him whether United States would get involved in a war over Taiwan, and he said yes. So the Chinese are not very happy, and this is the second time Biden has said the United States would get involved. So the Chinese are not very happy about that, and this is why I do not think that President Xi would meet Biden at all. I don't think they're going to give him the time of the day. So you have liver sausage himself, Olaf Scholz. Um, he has been in the firing line by the German businesses, and everybody knows who blew up those pipelines. So he has been absolutely being hammered left, right, and center. German businesses are shutting down. There's huge economic issues in Germany. There's no gas. There's major deindustrialization going on in Germany. And now the United States want Germans to be absolutely hawkish towards China. So a few weeks ago, you had Burback and Habeck as well, saying, "Oh, we cannot rely on China. We need to decouple." And now Scholz has basically done a 180, and he's suddenly saying decoupling from China is the wrong answer, and now he wants to go to China, meet with President Xi Jinping, and try and mend the relations, because the relations have not been very good with this German leader and with President Xi. So he has completely turned 180. This tells me that one of two things. Number one, I think the Germans are fed up with what the Americans have been doing. I'm talking about blowing up the pipelines, promising them LNG, and they have already broken that promise. They haven't delivered enough LNG to Germany, and Germans are struggling. German people are struggling, all because of America's actions. And I think Scholz has basically decided, you know what? You've asked us to decouple from Russia. We've done that at the expense of our own economy. Now you're asking us to do the same thing with China. I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. So I think finally this liver sausage is growing some balls. Um, I don't know if he's going to last, to be honest, because I don't think he's a leader that's going to last very much longer. He's like Liz Truss. He's on his last legs. And I think a decouple with China would completely destroy the German economy, because you can imagine how many German businesses are in China, how many German businesses are making money in China, how many jobs. If they decouple from China, that's it. You might as well wave goodbye to Germany's economy once and for all. So I'm coming up to the idiot of the day, and the idiot of the day is basically a fight broke out in the Manchester Chinese consulate between Hong Kong protesters and staff that work in the consulate. And I live in Manchester, and there was a huge protest with a lot of Hong Kongers walking up and down. And then I hear about this fight that happened. So what basically happened is I don't know the full story, but one of these protesters must have insulted the Chinese consulate in some way or other. So the fight basically broke out, and the Chinese consulate staff basically dragged the protester inside the gates. And you can see the police officer here trying to drag him out, but they managed to drag him inside the gates, and they started beating him up. The police are not allowed to enter the consulate because it's private property. And what I found funny is the police were basically watching this guy getting beaten up inside this consulate, and they weren't doing anything. They were just standing there. Um, they probably thought, if they walked in, they would have caused some sort of international incident. But these are not the idiots of the day. The idiot of the day is actually some Indian guy. So this Indian guy comes out of nowhere, and he starts pushing around these Chinese and Hong Kongers, and he's like pushing them onto the floor. One of the police officers, basically noticed what he was doing. Then he grabbed the Indian guy, and he kind of pushed him as well. And this Indian guy just comes out of nowhere. I'm just thinking, where the hell? What's his business here? What the hell is he doing in this fight between Chinese and Hong Kongers? What business is an Indian guy doing there? And this guy has got a proper Indian accent and everything. And I just want to show you this clip. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show it or not.
That you want to destroy the picture.
So this is the Indian guy here, standing right in the middle of the picture. And you can see he's a real Indian. He's got an accent as well. And I'm just wondering, what the hell is he doing here in the middle of these protests and fight between the Chinese and the Hong Kongers? Listen to him.
You're not going to destroy it.
You just said that on
I just remove it. You said no.
You said destroy. You said destroy.
No, you said you will do it.
Okay, so I'm going to show you him in action as well. He's literally like pulling these Chinese and throwing them onto the floor like he's some sort of police officer. And I'll show you these clips, and it's actually quite funny. Oh yeah, this is the clip where can you see the police are not doing anything, and that guy is getting beaten up at the back while the police are just standing there not doing anything. But that Hong Kong guy got dragged in and got absolutely clobbered, and eventually the police managed to drag him out. And so I'm just going to show you that clip of the Indian guy as well. Oh yeah, here's the clip, by the way. So this is coming from BBC China, by the way. And the BBC Chinese, don't forget, are not based in China. They are based in Taiwan. So they are not, they are going to be very, very biased. So here's the Indian guy here on the left, and you watch him in action. Watch him. He's going in there. He grabs this guy, and he pushes him to the floor. Watch here. Can you see him? Can you see him? Literally grabs him and throws him on the floor like he's some sort of. Then the police officer grabs the Indian guy and pushes him away. You can see like, what the hell is he getting involved? I mean, he must think this is Ladakh or something. He must think he's fighting the Chinese in Ladakh. Oh my god. Anyway, he is idea of the day. So that's all I wanted to talk about, really. So let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you in the next video.